There is a fallacy that people who are managing their wealth, who have a lot of money, don't use digital.
Yeah.
There's also a fallacy that people who are maybe have less and or are using a digital platform, there's a fallacy that they don't want to talk to people.
Welcome to the Galileo Financial Technologies Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Henderson. We're here to delve into the thrilling world of fintech and banking, exploring the latest trends, innovations, and disruptions. Every episode features insightful chats with industry leaders and visionaries who are pushing the boundaries of finance and banking. Whether you're passionate about fintech, running a startup, leading a large bank, or just intrigued by financial technology, this podcast is your go-to source for staying ahead. Let's dive into the future of finance and banking together.
All right. So we are ready for, this is my last podcast of the day, but one I've been looking forward to pretty much the whole time. And just for our listeners, I'd like to know, I'm Christienne and Genero with Galileo. I'm on the part of the partnerships team. In particular, I deal with sponsor banks and networks, but as a partnerships team, we cover a lot of ground. And I have Keough from SoFi here. I'd like her to introduce herself. So Kelli, if you'll tell everybody a bit about yourself, a little bit maybe about your current responsibilities and also how you got here, that would be great. And then we'll kick into the conversation.
Well, Christian, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with Galileo, we work so closely together as part of SoFi and Galileo. So Keough, I'm responsible for what we call SIPs, Spend, Invest, Protect, and Save. And really what that is, it's the opportunity to help our members be able to use their money to spend, often through what we think of as money accounts or checking and savings, then invest, protect is insurance, save is, of course, through our high-yield savings accounts. People can use credit cards. We also offer, in our team, we focus on small business. And then last but not least, we work with enterprises to bring SoFi products and services to the enterprise so that they can offer them as benefits to their employees. So we have a really broad range of products, but what's most important is that many of them are the daily engagement transactional businesses that our members at SoFi come to us each and every day to interact with us.
Right. And I actually have a story about that, real life, true story. So I have 3 young adults, and as they launch into their work life after college, I am very big about financial management. I usually kind of jury rig a parent-teen card for them, but I'm very big on encouraging them to save. And when I joined Galileo, I opened my own SoFi account. And as they each have graduated, I'm like, now that you're getting a paycheck, you really should take advantage of high yield savings, explained all that, et cetera. And they're pretty savvy as it is, moving money, spending things on the internet, buying, selling, et cetera. But one of my young adult kids in particular is very savvy and saves a lot, both invests and saves on the platform. And for a while, he's like, all right, I'm going to play the high yield savings game and look around for higher rates and this and that. And where can I get a bonus? I'm like, hey, fine. Just keep it in mind. And he comes back to me one night and he's, I don't know. He goes, none of these other banks, I can't move my money as fast as I can with SoFi. So he really, back it's just basic at this point, but you have trained the next generation to expect a lot of utility, information, instant access, et cetera. And I just want you to know that you're making the other banks look really bad because they can't move money as fast and be as clear about it. Anyway, I think that's a testament to how well the platform works.
I'd say first of all, thank you for sharing the story. Yeah. Secondly, our payment rails are through Galileo, so that speed is enabled by Galileo. And then last but not least, I think one of the things that we've realized with SoFi is the very personal brand for people.
Yeah.
We focus on people's money, helping them get their money right, whether it's at the beginning of their journey, middle of their journey, later in their journey. We are relevant but it's a very personal and emotional journey that they're on. And when you give that story, that's not just about the industry. That's not just about a company. That's about how do we help people. Yeah, with what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And as they're earning their first paychecks in particular, right, they're want to know where their money is, et cetera. Everybody does. But I think you really set a high standard. So I appreciate that. And to your point, it's also a platform they can grow with. So maybe you could tell me a little bit, as you came to SoFi and thought about the challenges ahead of you, you worked before in wealth management, et cetera. What are some of the differences, if there are any, when you're thinking about both how are you going to talk to this consumer, maybe a more mass market consumer than you had dealt with before? Are there differences? Are there similarities? Was there anything you had to think about differently?
So I had the great opportunity really from in my career to grow up at Schwab. And Schwab is at the heart of it a consumer brand that focuses on operational excellence. And really what it taught me, there was actually the company's mission and vision was through clients' eyes. And so if you serve them well, they will keep doing more with you. So that was an incredible training ground that has stuck with me all the way through my career. And it also reminds you that you can never be short on being exceptional in the operationals. Then moving to wealth management, I would say some of the learnings there are no matter what, it's people's money. And so whether it's transactional, whether it's retail, a more retail audience, or whether it's somebody who has a ton of money, they care, it has to be right, you have to serve them well. But I think there's a couple things that are more common. Everybody loves digital. There is a fallacy that people who are managing their wealth, who have a lot of money, don't use digital.
Yeah.
There's also a fallacy that people who are maybe have less and or are using a digital platform, there's a fallacy that they don't want to talk to people. But there are points in time where having a person like a CFP, like an insurance agent, who can help you through a complex part of the journey is complementary. So to me, I think there were some learnings. Always operational excellence, regardless of who you're serving. Digital for all, but then also people can matter.
Yeah. And I think that ability to give advice and have the people element and that, I think that focus on service, if you will. I won't name any names because it's not complimentary, but I can think of a couple of entrants into different spaces, right, where the digital experience is great, both for the consumer and maybe for the developer. But when you have a problem and you need a person, you can't get them, right? That's how you don't, I think you lose customers, right, as they grow and are more sophisticated if you can't support them. How about the dichotomy between bank and fintech? Do you think there's a dichotomy? Are there things that you've learned from one that you bring to the other and vice versa?
First of all, I'm not a huge fan of setting those two up against each other because SoFi is a fintech that is also a bank. And our goal is to actually really adapt and adopt the best of both. So fintechs do exceptionally at having a single product and an amazing experience. That's something that I think we need to remember as we bring more products and services into the fold is incredible experiences. Some of the challenges that banks have or larger companies is they have lots of products and they can serve tons of needs, but they do it in silos. And those silos make it so that it's really hard for somebody to interact in multiple ways. It's hard to reward people for doing more with you because of the economics of each silo. And so one of the things that we've really tried to do and learn more from fintechs than the banks is think about seamless, holistic experience, put the member at the center. And if you do that, the economics fall in line as well as the experience and the journey that they have across products.
And can you give for our users, those few who might not have used the SoFi product, can you give an example of like how that works in the experience?
Yeah, so we just are in the process of introducing crypto. And as we're introducing crypto, one of the things that we learned is that 60% of people who have traded crypto before were interested in trading it with a bank. So they're looking for the safety, soundness, the reliability, responsibility of a bank. And interestingly, then we took that learning and we were able to connect the banking experience with our crypto experience. So when somebody comes to open a crypto account, they also open a banking account. And what that does is it allows for the easy on and off ramps that we have. You mentioned moving money so quickly. We're able to do that with the dollars into your money account. And then when you want and need, you can move those into your crypto account. But while they're sitting in your money account as dollars, you're earning FDIC insurance and you're earning the high interest rate. But it's seamless to move money into your crypto account when you want it and need it. So for us, that really gives us the best of both worlds and that cross-product linkage that came from that insight of members where they were really excited to be able to trade at a bank.
Yeah. And do you think we hear a lot of, I'm going to say bank bashing. Do you think that is a trust element? Like, what do you think makes the average person want that kind of, I guess, endorsement, if you will, or knowledge?
Yeah, no, certainly there's a trust element to why people would be interested in buying and selling crypto at a bank. think about what do we represent with our, I would say, it's not just because we're a bank. It's, I think SoFi, this is deep in our DNA, but reliable systems, a regulated entity who has all of the exams, all of the audits. We are strong and sound, and we know that, and our regulators know that too. And our members know that. And so I think there's also that credibility that you get by being a sound institution that's been recognized by the regulators that gives people peace of mind, especially when it's a more speculative type investment or buy or purchase.
And I also think, and just speculating here myself, I also think it's, if you have the experience with SoFi where it's very clear, it's very easy, you can see where all your money is. I'm actually like a big fan of vaults. I love that. I wish I could have more than however you let me have. But I think if you have that trust and experience and clarity, that also gives the user kind of the confidence to move with you to something that might be more speculative, more complex, etc. I heard you talking this morning, and you were talking a little bit about since we're on the crypto, the future stuff, you're talking a little bit about the use of AI and agents, etc., in serving customers. And that gets a little bit back to, you do digital, in person, etc. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you see the use of AI coming about on the platform to serve customers?
Yes, so AI is really underneath so much of what we do, and it's going to be at the forefront of what we do. So if you think about underneath the covers in terms of helping us diagnose issues and self-heal our systems, helping us effectively deal with, for example, account takeover investigations without having to have a human part of that, collecting the information using AI and making that much more efficient to get to a decision to help our members. And then if you think about people chatting with you online and having an AI-driven chat experience, we're able to touch more people, help them better, raise their NPS actually through those interactions. So those are ways that I would say behind the scenes AI is helping us operationally and improve the member experience. We're really excited about some of the stuff that's at the forefront. And that's as we're using AI to help us with something called SoFi Coach. So at SoFi, we have the opportunity we've gathered a lot of data. Our members have helped us. They aggregate their accounts through Relay, and through all of the relationships that they have, we can see so much. But a lot of times data doesn't turn into insights and action. And that's what AI is so helpful for, researching insights to action. So imagine we can see into all of your accounts, and we can see whether you have too much cash, whether you don't have enough cash. We can help you optimize by analyzing, giving those insights, and then actually prompting the actions to address that. So you're going to see us use AI and SoFi Coach in areas of cash optimization, expense optimization, and then longer term, you're going to see us start to give more guidance and help people. For example, you'll see us using it more to help people find the investments that they are looking for. You'll see, ideally in the future, you'll see us even, you imagine the insurance process is actually pretty hard to figure out what to buy. And so how do we help people get those research insights to action? That's where AI can really help us in customer workflows.
A couple of things you've said have sparked a thought here. And we've talked about the product integration. You touched a little bit, but not deeply, on kind of customer lifetime value. But how do you think about managing the customer? And I've worked in, to your point, whose customer is it? I have my kind of sequence of growth events I try to bring if I'm in lending or over here on the deposit side. So how do you decide what's the right path, the right next product to introduce a customer to? And, who actually owns the customer at SoFi?
So SoFi owns the customer. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
They're a SoFi member. And so going to the economics for just a minute, I would say we are incredibly rigorous and disciplined in the way that we run our economics by product. So we look at unit economics. The goal is to get those as solid as possible to allow you to scale. That then allows us to invest from profitable businesses into the next innovation. So we have, in a way, Series A, Series B, Series C type products in our portfolio that help fund the next product. And ideally, you move as quickly as possible to being able to self-fund your own innovations. So that's the within product view. But importantly, we have a concept called cross-buy. And we think about the member when they come in, and even when we quantify what is a member worth to us, we think about lifetime value. And that lifetime value includes cross-buy. So we are able to quantify the saves that we get from every product that a new member adopts with us. And it turns out that 40% of the new products that are adopted at SoFi come from existing members. And the way that we do that is, one, we are incented as a company to be able to, as a product owner, I'm incented to try to drive as much cross-buy as possible because I get credit for that. But it also really helps us drive down the cost of acquiring a member because you're using multiple products. And then last but not least, let's go back to the member, go back to the data. I say cross-buy, not cross-sell. Because what we want to do is put in front of our members what we think is the next best option for them, and then allow them to adopt what works for them, but really make that seamless, let the data move across, let the platform be consistent across. We spend a lot of time thinking about the navigation in each of our areas so that it's consistent and familiar and easy for somebody to move and adopt another product.
Yeah. So what are you looking ahead, whether it's the 2026 or at that time of year, for predictions and forecasts? So it doesn't have to be just next year, but as you look ahead, both for the industry overall, but also for SoFi, what do you see coming down the pike, both in terms of opportunities that you'll be pursuing, but also challenges?
I'll start with a challenge that is the opportunity.
Okay.
There is so much opportunity right now. Our CEO, Anthony Noto, talks about the super cycles that are going on. And if you think about AI and then blockchain and crypto, the opportunities are incredible, especially for somebody like us who is a fintech and a bank. So you are seeing us, for example, bring out crypto. You're going to see us go fast and far into stable coins and push into payments. And think about, where does that go into lending? There's incredible opportunities, and really the sky's the limit for us. So the opportunity is the challenge in terms of making sure that we make the right next bets.
Yeah.
And importantly, let's go back to the seamless idea. I think everybody will have stablecoins at some point in their arsenal as a provider. Many of these things will start to become commoditized, like the checking and savings account. And SoFi was not the first to do a checking and savings account. We are not the first to bring out crypto. But we will be better than anybody at creating a seamless, holistic, all-in-one place experience that really ties together. That, to me, is the opportunity for differentiation. And then AI is the next big opportunity as well, as part of these super cycles. And that, to me, is how do you then help people guide across that ecosystem? So there's going to be lots. An example is, there's going to be so many ways to move your money.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to move it all over the world. You're going to be able to move it in the time frame that you want. Some will be more expensive, some will be free. And you, as a consumer, that's confusing. And so how do we help people just know what's your intent? What do you want to do? How much money do you want to send to whom and where, and how fast?
All right, what's the best way to do that?
And then we figured out the best way. Don't put that on the member. So I think there's opportunities. That's just one small space, really. But if you think about AI then across all of your accounts and how do you optimize where your money is, there's incredible opportunity.
Yeah. Can you use AI to help me consolidate all of my accounts with one? That would be great.
Already, we have Relay where you can see all of your accounts. And SoFi Coach, on top of that, will be able to give you insights then about the money that you have at SoFi and the money that you have elsewhere. So whether you have it with SoFi, and ideally you have it with SoFi, but whether you have it or not, you'll have one place where you can go for those insights.
And what should I have asked you about that I didn't ask?
We've talked about crypto, we've talked about AI, we've talked about the exciting areas. The thing that we didn't talk about was the importance of being a regulated entity.
Yeah.
So we're here at Fintech NerdCon. I was on a panel earlier today where we talked about fintechs versus bank. And as we set it up at the beginning, I'm not a fan of the versus because SoFi is an and. Part of the reason that I think that's so important is because actually regulation can be your friend. Compliance and legal can be your friend. It is a way that we bring a solid, sound product and service to our members each and every day. But I also think as we look forward, there isn't, and I do not believe, we do not believe that there should be regulation for one group and not for the other. Instead, we really need to move to a regulatory framework that focuses on risk. How much systemic risk do you add to the ecosystem? And so instead of thinking about banks are regulated but fintechs are not,
Right.
or banks that are over X billion dollars have Y regulation and those under it don't. Instead, we need to really move to a risk-based approach that doesn't treat companies by the category that they fall in. So that's something we believe strongly in. On the other hand, I do think that by being a regulated entity, we are stronger, more solid, and people can and should expect more from us.
And I think that in my own day-to-day as part of the SoFi family, part of the SoFi holding company, I talk with a lot of our relationship managers and account managers if they're looking for a bank for their client or their bank wants to introduce a new product, et cetera. And the topic of regulation and slow and all this kind of stuff. And I always say, I'm like, actually, now I'm able to actually add, we're part of a bank holding company, so we know and we understand. But I always say, you do not want to work with a partner, right, that is kind of slipshod or fast and loose with the regulatory requirements and environment. You really would like to work with somebody who understands the regulations, has good relationships with their regulators, so they've got that discourse back and forth. And that really is ultimately going to be your friend, right? Because you might think that you save a little time by maybe working with a partner who is not as, shall we say, disciplined about it. But ultimately, it comes back to bite you, I think. And this morning on your panel, too, I think you said something else that applies in the same side about kind of the operational excellence, which is if you take a quick and dirty approach to begin with, right, and then you try to scale on your infrastructure, but you can't, right, when you have to stop, pull back, build again, you really, I think, there are doing a disservice to your customers, whether they're B2B customers or consumers, et cetera. And I think that point that you made applies there too, which is if you do it right from the beginning, you can scale, you'll have longevity, et cetera. And I think that applies in both kind of the infrastructure perspective in terms of being able to scale as well as the regulation. And that really is part of your infrastructure, right? Really understanding the regulations, I think, and being able to apply them. Thanks for raising that. Sorry, I didn't touch on it before. So great.
Yeah, no, I believe so strongly that you start from day one, thinking about security, controls, scale. And as you said, if you don't start with day one, then you may not have a day two.
Exactly.
I mean, I think this is so important. And one of the things I at times have to remind teams that the outside world doesn't know what date you are trying to reach, but the outside world knows what quality you give them.
Yeah.
And so that is what you have to do, is focus on the quality that will drive great member outcomes, great member experiences, and then allows the business to continue to grow as it should.
No, exactly. And if you don't feel like you would stand by it yourself, right, do you really want to offer it? Is that something you would want to use? Do you really want to offer it to the world? Thank you very much. I know this is like at the end of the conference, so, being probably talked out, I appreciate the energy and enthusiasm you brought and really appreciate your spending the time with me.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I also want to say thank you to the Fintech NerdCom organizers. It might be toward the end of the conference, but what it is, there's been a ton of ideas that I think we are all able to then assimilate into our thoughts. And I want to thank them for the environment that they've created here this year.
Great. All right. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
This podcast has been a production of Galileo Financial Technologies with all rights reserved. The content is provided for informational purposes only and is not legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. We strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information. You understand that any reliance on this information is at your own risk.